Hi everyone! Welcome to YouTube channel Research Ready and Student Matters Hub by Doc Lynn. I'm Doc Lynn para sa mga bagong nanonood. Welcome sa ating YouTube channel at sana may i-share nyo dito sa iba para lumawak pa or mas maging marami pa ang membro ng ating YouTube community. Kayo ba ay gumagawa ng experimental research? Whether ito ba ay true or quasi-experimental research. At gusto nyong bantayan ang mga factors or mga elements na po pwedeng makaapekto sa result ng inyong study. Kasi alam natin na kapag gumagawa tayo ng experimental research, we manipulate our independent variables so that we can establish the cause and effect relationships among our variables. So yung cause natin, yung ating IB or independent variables at yung effect ay yung dependent variables. Pero minsan tinatanong ka ng panel members, anong nangyari nung ginagawa mo yung iyong experiment? So during the process, habang sinasabi mo kung ano yung sistema at procedures na ginawa mo, maaaring magtanong din ang iyong panel members, paano ka nakakasiguro na ang naging result or ang findings ng study mo ay dahil sa treatment or intervention na ginawa mo sa iyong experiment? Bakit mataas ang naging post-test ng iyong experimental group? Or bakit naging mas mataas ang post-test ng iyong control group? So, kailangan nating bantayan at siguraduhin na habang tayo ay nagkakandak ng ating experimental research ay walang ibang factors or walang ibang elements na po pwedeng makaapekto sa findings ng ating study. Dahil ang binabantayan natin or ang tinitignan natin talagang makakaapekto sa ating dependent variables ay ang ating independent variables. Ang i-discuss ko ngayon ay yung tinatawag nating threats to internal validity. So ma'am, ano ba ito? Ito yung mga bagay, mga sitwasyon or mga pangyayari na po pwedeng maka-interfere sa'yo habang ginagawa mo ang iyong experimental research. Pwede itong maiwasan somehow or pwedeng hindi ito maiwasan na mangyari, pero kung ikaw ay researcher, dapat handa ka kung paano mo i-mitigate ang effect ng ganitong mga klaseng threats sa internal validity ng findings ng iyong research. Dito sa ating lesson video, magbibigay ako ng 10 or 10 na threats sa internal validity ng iyong experimental research at kung paano mo i-address ang mga bagay na ito. So sana manood kayo hanggang sa dulo. So what are the different typical threats to internal validity kapag magkakanda kayo ng experiment? So syempre dapat babantayan natin ito. Kasi ang kailangan nating i-manipulate ay yung independent variables natin at dapat sisiguraduhin natin na ito talaga yung naging dahilan ng cause and effect relationship dun sa ating dependent variable. O ito yung naging dahilan kung bakit ganun yung naging result ng ating study dahil sa pagmamanipulate natin ng ating independent variable. Okay, number 1, history. Etong history, these are events that occur during the experiment but are external to the experiment itself which may influence the outcomes. Hindi natin siya kailangan, pero hindi natin inaasahan nangyari siya. So, anong gagawin natin? Kunyari, ang example, suppose meron kang study at gusto mong malaman kung ang bagong teaching method sa student performance over a semester ay merong impact. Pero habang ikaw ay nag-experiment, merong ikinandak or merong in-order or merong in-release na order ang Department of Education na major educational reform, school-wide. So ito ay pwedeng maka-influence sa student performance kasi merong mga activities, merong mga changes. Now, how are we going to solve it? Use a control group that is not exposed to the same external events. By comparing the experimental group with the control group, you can better isolate the impact of the teaching method from the external influences. And if possible, magkaroon ka ng measure outcomes before and after the event. So, meron kang pre-test at saka post-test para ma-identify mo yung changes which is attributable to the external event. Tapos, pwede rin ang gawin mo, i-reduce mo yung study period para ma-minimize mo yung risk ng external events impacting the results. Pangalawa, maturation. Participants may naturally change over time in ways that affect the dependent variable. This is particularly relevant pag gumagamit ka ng longitudinal studies. So pag sinabi nating longitudinal studies, it is a series of study na nagko-collect ka ng data. Or studies involving developmental process where participants may naturally mature or age. Kasi pag masyadong matagal yung experiment mo, syempre, yung characteristics ng iyong participants or respondents ay nagmamature, which might affect the result of your experiment. Example, a study examines the effect of a new cognitive training program on children's attention spans over a year. So, isang taon niyang ginawa. Siyempre, nagkaroon ng natural development or changes dun sa mga bata na nakaapekto sa kanilang attention span. Paano mo isosolve yung ganitong problema kung ito yung sitwasyon? Pwede ka rin maglagay ng control group katulad nung kanina na hindi nagre-receive ng cognitive training para ma-compare mo kung pareho ba ang magiging result sa experimental group. Kasi mahi-help ka nito para ma-account mo yung natural maturation effects. Isa pa, since gumamit ka lang longitudinal studies considered only a short duration. Conduct the study over a shorter period of time if possible to reduce yung impact ng natural development. Isa pang pwede mong gawin yung tinatawag nating repeated measures. You take multiple measurements at different times to separate the effects of maturation from the effects of the intervention. So that's all about maturation. So nagbabago or merong pagbabago dun sa iyong respondents na nakakaapekto dun sa results ng iyong study. So it means, kung magkaroon ka man ng conclusion later on at hindi mo ito nabantayan, pwede nating sabihin na hindi yung independent variable mo or yung treatment ang naging dahilan kung bakit nagkaroon ka ng ganong results. Pangatlo ay yung testing. Simply taking a pretest can synthesize participants to the experiment's aims or measures affecting their behavior in subsequent tests. Ang tawag din dito madalas ay practice effect. Okay, example, in a study assessing the effectiveness of new cognitive tests, yung participants nag-take siya ng pretest. Naging familiar si participants dun sa test format na maaring pag nagkaroon siya ng post-test ay makaapekto sa kanyang performance. So in other words, si researcher nagbigay ng pre-test, ito yung format. Nagbigay siya ng post-test, iyon pa rin yung format. So nagre-retain kasi sa memory ng iyong mga respondents kung ano yung nakita nila nung una. So meaning, pwedeng ang maging dahilan kung bakit mataas ang scores nila after post-test ay dahil familiar na sila dun sa test na binigay mo. So yung content ng test ay pareho, pero you can rearrange it when you do the post-test. How are you going to solve it? Alternate the forms. Gamit ka ng ibang version ng pre at saka post-test assessment mo para ma-reduce yung tinatawag nating practice effect. Gumamit ka rin ng control group aside from the experimental group. Tsaka yung test-retesting interval, so huwag masyadong malapit. Baka ngayon sa experiment mo or nagkanda ka ng experiment lamang sa loob ng 1 linggo, which is very questionable, nagbigay ka ng Lunes ng pre-test, ang treatment mo ay ginawa mo lamang ng 1 linggo, tapos Friday nagkanda ka ng post-test. So, it's non-conclusive when you are doing an experiment. So, tandaan yan. Number 4, instrumentation. Changes in how the dependent variable is measured throughout the experiment can lead to inconsistencies or inaccuracies in data. Example, an experiment on the effects of a new therapy uses different therapists or different versions of a survey at various times, leading to inconsistencies in measuring patient outcomes. Noong nagsisimula ang study mo, ito yung therapist. Habang gumagalaw yung study, nag-iba ka ng therapist. So, meron siyang effect, doon sa ginagawa mong experiment. How are you going to solve it? Magkaroon ka ng standardization. Kung meron kang ginagamit na measurement, or meron kang ginagamit na tool, dapat yun yung gagamitin mong tool on the duration of your study. So, dapat hindi nababago yung content, yung format, pwede mong baguhin. Yung standardization na sinasabi, use the same measurement tool and procedures throughout the study to ensure consistency. Sa pamamagitan naman ng paggamit, halimbawa, ikaw ay teacher. Nagkaroon ka ng experiment. Ikaw yung unang humawak doon sa estudyante. And then, sa susunod, iba na yung humawak. So, pwedeng magkaroon ng effect yun sa result. Mag-provide ka rin ng training or uniform training doon sa mga magko-collect ng data. So, kung hindi man maaasahan na mapapalitan ng teacher na mag-handle dun sa bata, dapat yung teacher is well-versed at well-educated kung ano yung nangyayari. So, ilalagay mo yon dun sa yung study kung hindi talaga inaasahan. Na nabigyan mo siya ng orientation, nasabi mo sa kanya kung ano yung purpose ng study, na ganito yung ginagawa. Kasi minsan may mga time na ganon. Then, you can also consider calibration. Regularly calibrate and check measurement instruments para ma-ensure mo yung accuracy. Ang panglima ay regression to the mean. Extreme scores on a variable are likely to regress towards the mean upon retesting. This can lead to the illusion of an effect when extreme scores are measured at one point but not at another. Example, merong study na gustong evaluate yung motivational seminars effect on employee productivity. And it finds that employees within initially very low productivity scores improve. Potentially, pwedeng mag-lead yan sa regression to the mean rather than the seminar. So, papaano siya isosolve? Katulad ng nangyari sa iba, pwede kang mag-include ng control group mo para ma-compare mo yung changes at ma-determine mo if improvements are due to the intervention or natural statistical fluctuations. Sa statistical techniques mo, gamit ka ng statistical methods na ma-adjust yung regression effects, such as including baseline scores as covariates in analysis. At pwede ka rin magkaroon ng repeated measurements. Measure productivity multiple times para mas maintindihan mo yung pattern at ma-distinguish mo between yung true effects at saka yung regression. Ang number 6 naman ay selection bias. If participants are not randomly assigned to experimental conditions, there is a risk that pre-existing differences between groups could confound the results. That's why I have mentioned in my past lesson videos, other schools are not encouraging quasi-experimental research. Because most of the time, yung conclusion mo ay nako-question kung yung bang treatment mo or yung independent variable mo ay meron ba talagang naging effect sa changes sa yung dependent variable. So, pwede yun, no? Yung selection bias nating tinatawag kasi hindi ka nag-systematically assign ng iyong respondents. Example, a study on the effectiveness of new educational software recruits participants from highly motivated school, potentially skewing the results. So, yung comparability ng respondents mo ay hindi siya nag-e-exist. Anong gagawin mo ngayon? Para maiwasan to, randomly assign participants to experimental and control group para ma-ensure natin yung comparability. No? Ano yung susunod nating gagawin? We can also consider matching. Match the participants on key characteristics. Kunyari, yung kanilang performance. To control for pre-existing differences. Pwede rin tayong gumawa ng representative sampling. You have to use a broad and representative sampling method para maiwasan natin ng selection ng participants who might introduce bias. Another threat to internal validity is yung tinatawag nating mortality. Yung mga participants natin are dropping out of the study bago pa siya makumpleto, na po pwedeng magkaroon ng bias sa ating results. Mainly if the dropout is related to experimental manipulation. So, kunyari daw, nagkaroon ka ng longitudinal study sa health intervention. Yung participants mo with severe conditions might drop out, which might affect the results. Anong gagawin mo? Magkaroon ka ng retention strategy. Implement strategies to keep participants engaged, such as kamustahin mo sila, pwedeng bigyan mo sila ng incentives, or flexible scheduling. Another is intention to treat analysis. Include participants in the groups to which they were originally assigned, regardless kung sila ba ay drop out para ma-reduce mo yung bias. Tsaka, isa pa, i-monitor mo yung dropout rates. Kung hindi talaga maiiwasan, you track and analyze the dropout rates at saka yung reason to assess their impact on the study, tapos i-adjust mo yung analysis mo accordingly. Dapat lumalabas din ito sa iyong paper kasi talaga namang hindi ito maiiwasan. Halimbawa, ang iyong mga respondents or yung subject ng study mo ay ang iyong mga estudyante. Sa loob ng 3 buwan, nagkanda ka ng treatment dito sa iyong mga estudyante at nagkaroon ng dropout rates, no? Kunyari lang. Hindi talaga natin siya maiiwasan. Ilagay mo to sa iyong paper at explain mo kung anong ginawa mo para masolusyonan mo itong bagay na ito. Number 8, diffusion or imitation of treatments. In studies where participants communicate with each other, whether they are experimental or control group, there is a risk that participants in the control group may be influenced by those in the experimental group, leading to contamination of results. So, maaring nagkukwentuhan sila at nag-uusap sila tungkol sa ginagawa mong experiments. Kunyari, ang ating example ay, in a study where one group of students receive a new reading program, if control group students learn about and start using similar strategies, it can contaminate the results. So, kung magkakakilala yan at nagkukwentuhan sila, pwedeng sabihin ng estudyante na nasa experimental group, ito yung ginagawa namin. No, ito yung mga pinapagawa sa amin ni teacher. So, ngayon, ini-imitate yan at ginagaya ng nasa control group. So, pwedeng maapektuhan yung result ng iyong study. How are you going to solve it? Control group isolation. Ensure mo yung participants mo in the control group are isolated from those in the experimental group para ma-prevent mo yung information sharing. Isa pa, yung blinding. Use blinding techniques para ma-prevent mo yung participants from knowing kung sino ba yung grupo na kabilang sa control at saka experimental. Then, pwede rin yung gawin mo dito ay yung separate settings na technique. Conduct interventions and control conditions in different locations or settings to minimize the risk of contamination. So, sa case naman ng mga teacher, pwedeng isang section sa experimental, isang section sa control group. Okay? Number 9, experimenter bias. Researchers' expectations are unintentional cues that can influence participants' behavior or data recording, thereby makaka-affect siya sa study's internal validity. Example, in a drug trial, if the researcher provides more encouragement or nagbibigay siya ng cues sa participants ng experimental group, syempre, makaka-influence ito sa kanilang respondents. Kasi yung emphasize mo ng treatment, doon mo ibinibigay. Binibigyan mo sila ng too much information, minomotivate mo sila ng sobra compare dun sa control group mo. Paano mo siya isa-solve? Magkaroon ka ng double blind design. Implement a double blind design where neither participants nor experimenters know who is the experimental or control groups. Pwede rin implement mo yung standardized procedures. Magkaroon ka ng strict standardized procedures para sa lahat ng interactions with participants para ma-minimize mo yung bias. Kumbaga, wala kang favoritism. And then, objective measures. Gamit ka ng objective, automated measures where possible or if possible para ma-reduce mo yung potential bias sa data collection. At lastly, yung demand characteristics. Participants may change their behavior or responses kasi yun yung ini-expect sa kanila ng researcher. So, may connection to dito sa ating number 9. So, nabibigyan mo sila ng too much info, nafe-feed nila yon, tapos, i-interpret sila ng iyong expectation sa kanila. Example, if participants in a study may alter their behavior based on their perceptions kung ano yung gustong ng researcher na dapat sila. Okay? So, kung ako yung experimental group, isa ako doon, sinasabi ni teacher, dapat maganda yung performance niyo sa post-test, blah, blah, blah. Okay? So, sinabihin ko nyari ni teacher. So, syempre, ako ngayon, as one of the participants, yun yung isushow ko kay teacher. So, maaaring hindi ako naapektuhan ng intervention na ginawa ng teacher, pero yung behavior niya towards me, yun yung nakaapekto para mag-perform ako ng mas maganda. How are you going to solve it? Deception or ethical consideration. Use careful, considered deception to prevent participants from knowing the true purpose of your study. Kasi kung palagi araw-araw nag-experiment ka or ginagawa mo sa kanila yan every other day, tapos bago mo siya gawin, pinifeed mo yung estudyante mo ng info, o dapat mataas ang score niyo, o dapat ganito or ganyan. So, ngayon, yung expectation mo sa estudyante, yun yung nasa isip nila. But it's not actually focused on the intervention or the treatment. Neutral instructions. Provide neutral instructions and framing to minimize participants' expectations and biases. So, neutral ka lang, no, as a researcher. Post-study debriefing. You debrief your participants after the study. Importante ito. Para ma-reveal mo yung true purpose and assess if the behavior was influenced by perceived expectations. Pero ako, sinasuggest ko din to. No? Magkaroon kayo ng post-study debriefing after nung study, whether kung anong study ang gagawin nyo through experiments, dapat you have to have a post-study debriefing. So I hope na maiwasan ninyo itong mga threats to internal validity, at kung mangyayari man siya, dapat gagawan nyo siya ng paraan at babantayan nyo siya. No? Explain mo sa iyong research paper anong ginawa mo para masolve mo itong mga threats na to. Pwede kang mag-employ ng various strategies para ma-mitigate mo siya, yung effect ng threats. Randomization, counterbalancing, blinding, tsaka yung careful experimental design. So, natapos nyo yung discussion natin sa threats to internal validity. Nakagain ba kayo ng knowledge kung ano yung mga babantayan ninyo para masigurado nyo na yung results or findings ng study nyo ay ayon sa kung ano yung purpose kaya nyo siya ginagawa, or nagmamanipulate kayo ng inyong independent variables through the intervention or the treatment na ginawa mo sa iyong study. Lagi lamang tatandaan, kung hindi natin ito maiiwasan, dapat gagawa tayo ng paraan as a researcher at i-explain natin siya sa loob ng ating papel para hindi ma-confuse or magkaroon ng doubt ang ating panel members na hindi yung data natin ang ating minamanipulate, kung hindi yung ating independent variables na ginawa nating treatment or measure, or treatment or intervention doon sa ating study. Ilagay lamang natin sa ating papel kung ano yung ating ginawa nung na-encounter natin ang lahat ng ito. Kasi ako, naniniwala ako sa researcher na kapag nag-experiment ka, talagang meron kang may encounter na mga threats sa validity ng iyong findings. So, ulitin ko, ang importante dito ay ipinaliwanag mo bilang isang researcher kung papaano mo siya na-identify, at ang ending kung papaano mo binigyan ng solusyon ang problemang ito. Maraming salamat sa inyong panonood, at gusto kong sabihin na good luck sa pagkakandak ninyo ng experiment, or kung nakapagkandak man kayo at gumagawa kayo ng papel, pwede nyo pa rin i-consider yung mga sinabi ko dito sa lesson video na ito. Please like, share, and subscribe our YouTube channel. If you have also time, please write your comments in the comment section para mas makita pa at maka-inspire ng ibang nanonood also ng ating YouTube channel, at malaman din ng iba kung papaano gagawin kung ang kanilang gagamitin ay experimental research, whether it is true or quasi-experimental research. Always remember, we unlock insights to empower your minds. Thanks for watching, everyone, and see you on our next lesson video. God bless and bye-bye.